You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty. All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm Brian Call. I got Brad Hunt here with me. We're doing a little walk and shoot podcast outdoors here, trying to kill two birds with one stone. If you're listening to this podcast, you might want to watch it. I don't know, but we're just out in my backyard shooting our bows, and we've got some prime RVX 34s.
Yep.
I've got an RX8, a Hoyt RX8 that I just killed a couple bears with 2 weeks ago up in Alberta. Some 7-footers. It was a pretty cool hunt.
Yeah.
I used a Mega Meat Broadhead, different arrow rig than I normally use.
And devastating.
It was unbelievable what that did to two bears. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So what I want to do today is, just while we're shooting here, we're going to practice fling some arrows, but we're going to talk a little bit about just what we got going on. We're going to start with the Broadhead discussion. I have a lot of Broadhead setups. I've got that Mega Meat head, and I don't know if anybody has, if you're listening and you haven't seen that Mega Meat Broadhead, it's a 3-blade with like a 2-inch hole.
Yeah. I mean, every expandable broadhead I've always been like, no thanks for especially bigger game.
Yeah.
Now, I think with technology and evolution, I'm like,
I've been asking around, from Brian Barney too, who uses an expandable broadhead.
Yep.
I've been asking
Sam Davis.
Yeah. Ryan
Jeff
Carter
Helm.
the other day, Jeff Helm, a bunch of people who have been using, mechanicals or expandables, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah. Yeah. They have all, or like, I almost tell all my guys, like Ryan Carter, he's like, I almost tell all my guys to shoot an expandable broadhead.
It just seems that they're performing at another level. Now, I did have a long discussion with Bill over at
Iron Will
the other day. I have a whole bunch of Iron Will, single bevel, 2-blade with a bleeder, fixed blade broadhead. And I love that design. Okay, folks, if you like the show and you want to support us and you're in the market for a brand new sleeping bag, check out the Peaks Solace 15. We spent a lot of years designing that sleeping bag in partnership with Peaks Equipment. The Peaks sleeping bag has so many innovative features. The old backpacker saying that 2 is 1 and 1 is none is never more true. And this sleeping bag is so versatile. It can be a quilt. It can be a jacket. It's got armholes. It's a 3-way zipper. It regulates temperature really well. It's got the hood. It's pretty remarkable. Go check it out. Use the code GRITTY and you'll save. And it helps us keep doing what we do. Now, let's get back to the show. But I am really liking the flight from a mechanical.
Yeah.
And the performance seems to be exceeding that of some of these fixed blade setups. So here's my Valkyrie setup. Now, this is on a 500 and...
I think those are 524.
524 grain head. And this is the Jagger Broadhead.
Yep.
Great for penetration, 1-inch hole. Now, my experience has been, if you want to go coast to coast on an animal, shoot the blades you're actually practicing with, and then just
sharpen them. Yep.
This is an unbelievable setup. The front of center is heavy. It punches through things. Okay. Now, what I have found is I've had trouble sometimes finding some elk. Finding some animals I've shot with this because they don't bleed.
Yeah, and that, no matter pass through or not.
Yeah, it's a full pass through.
But
they're not bleed. The entrance and exit holes just aren't.
They're not opening up. They're not moving meat out of the way and cutting a giant hole.
Well, I think, and it depends on the animal, right? But I think the hide blocks.
Yeah.
The hole sometimes, especially on a bear. The hide's real thin.
Yep.
And you can punch through a bear. It's loose as well. It's like a fat person who lost 200 pounds and now their skin's just hanging.
Got a bunch of skin hanging. It's like
when it punches through and then they move, the skin slides over the hole. Brad is going to add some photos and a little bit of video overlay to this discussion. So if you are listening to this podcast, you might want to go watch it. I don't know what minute mark we're on here, but basically he's going to put some stuff in there to illustrate this. But that Mega Meat on a bear. I shot 2 bears with it.
Yep.
The hole it put through, punched through the rib cage, went in and out, full pass through. The hole was 2 inches.
No joke, as they say, a 2-inch expandable. That hole is every bit of 2 inches.
It's a full circle.
Yeah.
You can look at the video. You can see the carnage caused by it. I witnessed it. I watched the bear get hit, and it wasn't a heavy arrow. So I shot him with that the 3-blade mechanical Mega Meat.
Yep.
And I shot him with this Victory Rip.
The velocities.
Extreme velocity.
Yep.
And this arrow weighs.
So that yours is 412 grains.
412.
125 grain head.
Full pass through.
Yep.
Mega Meat.
Yep.
Now I've got here a G5 arrow.
Yep.
That is
the G5 stacks.
447 grains.
Yep.
With 125 grain head on it. It's total of 4. So it's a little bit heavier than this. Than this Victory arrow. Now I used the Victory arrow on the bear. These are 7-foot bears. The rib cage is pretty substantial. If you look at the video that Brad will overlay, you'll see what that Mega Meat did. The more I look at it and I see the devastation caused by it, and then I'm analyzing and kind of asking people that have killed a lot of animals with them how they're performing. I'm really leaning heavy toward using the Mega Meat on all deer and smaller animals.
Exactly.
And
100%,
probably
no
the
question.
dead meat this year on the elk hunts that I have.
Right.
And I'll still bring in my quiver 125 grain, probably iron will.
Yep.
If I need to shoot through brush a little bit, or it's a frontal shot, or the animal's coming through thick brush and I've bugled it in, and then I'll grab out of my quiver a fixed blade, 2-blade, cut on contact, at least a single bevel will put sort of a square hole into an animal. I don't like double bevel, single 2-blade broadheads at all. I don't like them. And you've been shooting the Annihilator. I
have. And then this year, they've always been a double bevel. Well, this year they have the 3-blade, but it's a single bevel. So like the razor sharpness that everybody raves about, that's what you can get with like the new Annihilators. And I just like the holes that they create. They just move meat. The design, they're meant to move meat and muscle out of the way. They just create a hole almost like an expandable does. Now, obviously, you're getting another inch or so probably out of the expandables because you have an 1.5 inch diameter cut to a 2-inch cut. So, but like, I think these right here, this is their wide. And so if I'm in this is the Annihilator wide, and it has like 1.25 inch cut on it. If I'm in close quarters, I always use that. Where if I'm in, so I would say 50 yards and in, I like to use that. If I'm beyond 50 yards or I have some brush, I end up using just the standard cutting diameter, which is like a 1-inch diameter.
So at this point though,
it's hard to go away from.
I'm switching up this year. I'm not shooting the Valkyrie. I'm going for a little faster arrow.
Yep.
But still heavy enough. I think I'm close to 450 grains.
Yep. Yeah, you're right at 450. I have the advantage of a little longer draw length, a little longer arrow, so I'm 460, almost 465, 464 and some change. Shooting 292. You are shooting about 280, 282, somewhere in there.
It was the 270s.
It was high 270s. High 270s with the 400, basically 50 grain arrow.
Yeah.
Roughly. So, still got some kinetic energy behind it. Testing out these different rigs. And I will say, like, as we talk about the RVX 34, 36, 32, all the prime lineup, that's one thing that some folks like myself with a longer draw length, you do cut your distance down. So like right now with the option sight, and we'll get into that later, but I'm only getting out of a 460 some grain arrow, I'm only getting like 105 yards out of it, which is plenty for shooting animals. But tack, I'm like, I want a little longer distance out of it, but we'll get into that one later. But right now with these arrow setups, the broadheads, man, it is, like I said, so hard in my mind right now to go away from the mechanical. Like I just
Yeah, like
they're
I'm talking to
devastating.
Brian Barney and Sam Davis, like, you know, and I've used these as well. This is the Valkyrie. Now I've been using mechanical for the last few years, and this is the Valkyrie mechanical broadhead. And these swing out and open to the side.
Yeah.
But you still have this fixed, like just under an inch wide cut on contact tip. So you got the great flight of a mechanical. And I have put this through a number of animals, and it's just devastated every single one of them.
Yep.
Those deer I shot. I mean, I've shot mule deer, I've shot whitetails with this, and it's hit bone, all that kind of stuff, and it has just.
You basically went coast to coast on that whitetail.
That whitetail went in like through the ass, all the way through the body, and out the throat by the neck.
Just devastated.
It just sent it. But this is 524 grains with that head. And I like it. I love this setup. It's heavy, but I want a little more speed. I want a little flatter shooting rig.
Yeah.
And based on what I'm seeing, when I look at the Mega Meat, how the head like deploys downward.
It's almost like there's not a failure point, because when it does hit bone, it's still directing those blades straight back versus trying to open up.
Yeah, they're not trying to fold open.
They're
they just
being pushed
backward.
back. And I think,
and also during the entry, sometimes these fold downs, they'll get into the body cavity before they fold down.
Yeah.
And when that happens, it leaves a small hole on the outer hide or the entrance,
correct.
But it'll make up for it as it goes through. Where when they deploy backwards, that design broadhead,
it's like as it's entering the hide, the chest cavity.
Yeah, it makes for a maximum size entrance hole, because as it goes in, the blades get wider and they fully deploy by the time they enter the body cavity. And it does appear that if you look at the Mega Meat, it kind of slides in this rail and locks into place. It has like they're flimsy blades, which I was so skeptical of. But, dude, they're meant to sort of bend around a bone.
And they're freaking sharp. I reached in my center console and sliced my hand. I didn't realize I had a broadhead in there.
I mean, let's talk a little bit about, like, you might be asking, like, why the Mega Meat all of a sudden? Well, because Brad filmed Jeremiah Plyer, who is the owner of Wild Arrow Archery Shop, Hunt Desert Sheep this year.
Last year.
Last November, December is what it was. December is when he shot. Archery, they only issue 2 tags. Big deal. And Jeremiah, he opted for the Mega Meat.
Yeah.
And the devastation that Broadhead caused helped him. He got that ram when most heads he probably wouldn't have got that ram. And that's a long story. That's a 2-hour film that is under production.
Yep.
That y'all can see when we publish it.
I mean, that is just to testify, like, with archery, no matter what, there's good and there's always bad. You can hit an animal perfectly and it not be the perfect shot, what you thought they'd get away or whatever. But having a greater margin of error is what I'm like realizing, because there is a time, our goal is 100% of the time to make a perfect shot.
Yeah, every shot. That'd be ideal.
But it's hunting. I mean, every rifle shot's not the perfect shot either. And just having a greater margin of error that like makes up for the mistake that maybe you make, that's how it happened on that sheep, and ended up smoking a great ram.
Yeah, Jeremiah shot a great ram. And the thing is, that's not easy to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like seeing that head perform,
right,
and then that sparked my interest in it. Broadhead flight is great. I'm sick of tired of trying to tune fixed blade broadheads.
Yeah.
And the better you get at archery, you're proficient out to 90 yards or plus sometimes.
Yep.
It's so difficult to get a fixed blade broadhead to leverage your skill set.
Yeah.
Once you get good, like a lot of guys, it can't shoot beyond 40 yards with any kind of accuracy anyway.
Yep.
Right. So, but when you're good, when you've spent the years honing a skill, it's annoying to shoot a target tip, drill a target, and be really good, proficient at all these ranges.
Yeah.
And then screw on fixed blade broadheads and get groups that are wide. And,
right.
And
like in an old video we did in the past, you know, there's things you can do to correct that walk back tuning, broadhead tuning, all that stuff. But a lot of guys don't, I don't know if they don't want to or they just don't take the time to do that. But again, as Staten always says, Dan Staten in Elk Shape, it's like ABT, always be tinkering, you know, and it's a never ending game with archery. So you can continue to tinker as much as you have time for. But I don't know, as I talk to guys like Jeff Helm, who, you know, he hunts in Texas, lives in Texas, hunts down there a lot. So they're not shooting giant animals, but they're shooting a lot of animals, a lot of axis deer, whitetail deer, hogs, and they have continually used an expandable broadhead almost for every animal they've taken, and it's just devastating.
Hey, if you like our show and you want to support us, you can do that by shopping at Stealthy Hunter, a great partner of ours. They sell rifle covers, which we use on every single hunt. They sell glassing pads. They sell supplements. They got CBD gummies, other products over there. Check it out. Make sure you use the code GRITTY. And now back to the show. Yeah, I'm leaning toward the mechanical for flight and accuracy, but also for giant holes in animals. And after watching Jeremiah's sheep and how he hit it and the devastation it caused, that would normally not be a kill shot with any other broadhead. And what it did was just absolutely blow your mind. And he got the sheep. So like you said, not every, you know, your goal is to hit it perfectly. But in the instance that you don't, you want the most,
you want
the
gear
equipment that's going to give you the best advantage.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, I'm weighing that pro and con, but there's always pros and cons to whether you use a mechanical or a fixed blade. We've had that discussion many times. But man, just with modern technology, I am leaning a little harder on the mechanicals now.
I mean, even in the last 3 years, the evolution and technology changes of an expandable broadhead are completely different.
I'm going to use it this year, and I'm going to see. So far, I've shot 2 bears with it, and I'm blown away. I'm blown away, and so is everyone at Bear Camp. These guys, True North Outfitters, which we'll do a podcast with them here soon, they guide, they kill 25, 30 bears a year. They've been doing it with all archery for years. And they're on that train, man. They're just on the, hey, use the mechanical expandable broadheads at this point.
I mean, watching the video, when you came back, it's literally bolt your bears. You shoot them, and then 2 to 4 seconds, they're on the ground. Now, it takes them 25, 30 seconds to like actually die, but their physical ability is like gone at 2 to 4 seconds where they are not running. They're not moving. They're just, you know.
Yeah, their ability to run, it sapped right out of them.
I don't know. It blew me away. And then again, seeing the holes after with the hide hanging up, like, I don't know.
It's something to look at. Look, I'm going to use them. I'm going to use the dead meat on elk, and I'm going to use the mega meat on all my deer hunts and bears and stuff. And I might use the mega meat on an elk. It's just, I think the heads are a little more aggressive in how wide they want to get the actual head. And I just think with a little thicker animal, the dead meat seems to be built more for
and
this application.
Accuracy, you know, you talk to super experienced guys, Brian Barney, Sam Davis, that have been using Jeff Helm, that have been using, we say their names often because, I mean, they've killed a lot of animals with an expandable broadhead. And as an experienced archers, they're taking accuracy over almost everything else and then choosing their shots too. Because the accuracy, I mean, when you're able to put it exactly where you want it every time on an animal in the moment, like, you know, you're waiting for that perfect broadside shot. And so you don't have a big shoulder that you're worried about. You don't have, you know, going all the depth of the chest cavity or whatever from front to back on a frontal. So they're waiting for that perfect shot. You know, if that's what it takes with an expandable, but you have the accuracy, then I'm all for it. Willing to try it out.
Yeah, that's kind of the broadhead tinkering that we've been doing. Check out the video if you're listening to this and just look at the holes created, or go to my Instagram. Brad's going to make some posts.
Yep.
Put a little video clip up, and you can see how that Mega Meet performed. And then look for the video we have this fall. You'll see some films where we use that head and continue to track the performance. I like the heavy front of center setups, and I like the Valkyrie Arrow builds, micro diameter, but I also really like what we're running now.
Yep.
And we have the G5 versus these Victories.
Yep.
And what is the diameter, Brad?
So these are a 204, and then the G5s. So they're a 203, but they have a knock collar. So any regular knock that fits a 204 will fit in this 203 diameter shaft. But like I said, we're shooting 300 spine. These are the Stax 203s. They have the Mark 203, I think. 244 is the other one. But haven't shot those. So been shooting the Victories, extreme velocities a lot, and been shooting the G5 Stax a lot. So be curious to keep tinkering.
Yeah. Yep. So got any questions, leave them in the comment section of the video, and let us know what you think.
Yep. On to the next one.
Yeah. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Stay gritty.